And some of us who have already begun to break the silence of the night have found the vocation of agony, but we must speak. This was stated in Martin Luther King Jr.'s speech, Beyond Vietnam, A Time to Break Silence, where he relates issues of the Vietnam War to the civil rights movement. Today we are going to talk about who he was, the context, the cause and effect, content, and the rhetoric included in the speech. Now on to who MLK was.
King was born January 15, 1929 in Atlanta, Georgia. He was a Baptist, a minister, a humanitarian activist, and civil rights leader. He led the civil rights movement through nonviolent protests, which in turn earned him the Nobel Peace Prize October 14, 1964 for combating racial inequality. He was soon thereafter assassinated by a guy named James Earl Ray, April 4, 1967. Based off this background, people will be asking, why is a civil rights leader trying to voice his concern and opinion about the war in Vietnam? Well, after a lot of pondering and thinking, I have come to the conclusion that because he was a humanitarian and activist, he felt that it was his civic duty to at least voice why he felt that the Vietnam War was at least immoral and be able to touch on certain issues. Now I'm going to talk about the cause of this speech. The time area in which this speech took place was the end of the civil rights movement. The Vietnam War was just starting and social progress was booming in the United States. King believed that in turn this Vietnam War was halting social progress. A quote by Dr. Coles in his academic journal states that King connected racist acts on the battlefield of Southeast Asia to the impoverishment, imprisoning, and lynching of dispensable deprived non-white niggers in America. King noticed that soldiers were being racist towards non-whites, calling them things such as gooks or slants, and shooting at anything that was also non-white or anything that moves that includes the opposition and friendlies. Obviously, King believed that this was halting any kind of social progress that he was improving on and didn't like it. Some influences on the speech would be, from now on, would be that people recognize that this was a very impactful speech. It helped people recognize the hypocrisies and immoralities of the militarism in the United States. Another quote from Coles states that people recognize it as one of the most powerful speeches articulating immorality of the Vietnam War and its destructive impact on social progress in the United States. This helped people question, why are we in this war? What are we doing there? What are any kind of benefits from it? A lot of these negatives of the wars could also outweigh the benefits of the war that we don't even know anything about. Soldiers are obviously laying their lives on the line, and families back home are terrified if their children or fathers or husbands are okay. Are they going to make it back home? And if they do make it back home, are they going to be the same? People were very impacted by this speech, but to King's peers and the officials of the government that he was trying to reach to did not seem to have the same effect. They in turn thought that King was just a civil rights leader and had no credibility on this topic and no credibility when it came to foreign policy, therefore did not really listen to what King had to say and discredited him. Now, I will pass it over to Aaron, who's going to talk about the audience and the setting of the speech.
Dr. Martin Luther King gave a speech at Riverside Church in New York on April 4th, 1967 to approximately 3,000 people. Giving this speech in a church gave a somewhat peaceful feeling to his audience, which paired well with how intense and passionate his speech was. Dr. King wanted the leaders from all the churches in attendance to go back and to speak to their people on this issue and use their status to spread the word. If the audience were mostly everyday people, this speech would not have been as effective. The target audience of this speech was everyone in America. Most of the audience in the church were clergy members. This helped his speech because they had similar interests in the topic and shared most of the same views and values. They both wanted to help the poor and promoted equality. Throughout the speech, MLK had to stop several times for applauses. However, not all Americans were satisfied with this speech. Many people were outraged at how he was disagreeing with the government, including the NAACP, which is the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. They were upset about what MLK was proposing to the government because they thought it was a terrible time for him to challenge the government. MLK was not only advocating the end of the war, he was also advocating civil rights. He preached that it was wrong to make African Americans go on the front line when they didn't share the same rights as the white soldiers right next to them. Although this is very true, African Americans were just beginning to make progress in society and now a very tense spotlight shed on them, spreading even more controversy. Civil rights leaders publicly condemned him for it. It was the most controversial speech he ever gave, says NPR.org. Now Taylor will touch on the content of the speech.
In the overall message of Martin Luther King's speech, he voices that he's against the Vietnam War and encourages citizens to speak out against the war. He has 3 main points in his speech. He argues that the American government is spending money on the Vietnam War when they should be helping low-income Americans. His second main point is he argues that African Americans are fighting with white Americans in Southeast Asia for freedom when African Americans don't have freedom back at home. One example he uses is that African Americans and white Americans can't sit in the same classroom together. His last main point, he addresses the violence issues going on in America with civil rights and the violence going on in the Vietnam War. He then goes on to describe the war and how it started, what's going on in the war and the violence with the war. He suggests 5 actions that the government can take to end the war in Vietnam. He explains values of America's values and how we should love one another regardless of class or race. He then explains that it is America's choice to be violent or nonviolent. He concludes with that it's America's right, it's America's choice. If America makes the right choice, then we will have peace. One quote that sticks out in MLK's speech is, "If we continue, there will be no doubt in my mind that we will have no honorable intentions in Vietnam. If we do not stop our war against the people of Vietnam immediately, the world will be left with no other alternative than to see this as some horrible, clumsy, and deadly game we have decided to play." Lastly, Bridget will provide the rhetorical analysis of the speech.
Looking at the speech from a rhetorical analysis standpoint, we see that Dr. King does many successful things and many not so successful things in his speech. Some of the good things were his ability to connect with the audience on all levels, making it extremely relevant to all races and all classes, which was a hard thing to do at that point in time. He also brings up the deep effect that it is having on the nation and the call to action while still informing the audience of what is going on. Things that were criticized were his unpopular ideas about U.S. aggression and imperialism, and the fact that he was a preacher and civil rights activist. People believed that it was not his place in government to try and influence their ideas. People also didn't like the fact that he connected 2 obsolete ideas of the Vietnam War and the civil rights movement. Edward C. Apple's Online Journal article in 1977 defended this connection by stating that the problems the movement turned to after desegregating the South, problems of poverty, bad housing, and substandard education in the North and Midwest, had proved intractable. This showed how hard it was to not relate the two because they were happening at the same time. Dr. King also uses rhetorical devices in his speech. According to Aristotle himself, from his book, The Rhetoric and Poetics of Aristotle, written in March 1894, he defines ethos as the credibility and the convincing by one's character. He defines pathos as the emotional appeal and logos as the logical means of persuasion. In his speech, Dr. Martin Luther King uses ethos to establish credibility by connecting his speech with doctors and great national leaders. He also solidifies his status as a preacher and activist to give him the right to speak on these issues. He uses pathos to connect to the audience on an emotional level by referring to God and referencing their religion. He also talks about the effect on the nation, which brings about emotion, anger, and excitement about the change. He uses logos by touching on the bias and the irony of the system of choosing the soldiers that fought in Vietnam. He stated that it targeted the poor who fought for freedom and rights that they didn't have. In conclusion, we touched on who Dr. King was, the cause and effect, the contents, and the rhetoric included in it. Dr. King ends his speech by saying, "If we will but make the right choice, we will be able to speed up the day all over America and all over the world, when justice will roll down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. This gives us a basic conclusion and understanding of his call to action for peace in America and what is needed to be done.